On rare occasions they would darken and narrow and snap, but he was angry seldom. When he did, when he did not raise his voice. Occasionally he would pound down, as Betty Jane, Mrs. Burbank's niece, and ward once said. When a man or an incident tried his patience too far, but he was always calm. He could use simple, chaste, elegant English words in a quiet tone of voice, without profanity or expletives, and make a transgressor feel that a jail sentence would be a kindness compared to one of Luther Burbank's rebukes. There were times when his English was not so chaste. He had a profane vocabulary. On rare occasion, he unlimbered his big guns. His movements were quick, accurate, efficient. His hands were supple and very strong. He had that deftness that marks all experts, whether a great batter, a swift telegraph operator, an old lady knitting, or a finished painter at his easel. He never made two motions where one would do. In picking up a pen, he did it instinctively, so that it was ready to lay to paper, and he always wrote with his pen between the index and second finger, supported by the thumb. When he was grafting or budding or pollinizing, his hands were like dragonflies above a pool. He clung to boiled shirts to the end, only toying with more modern patterns, which he would buy extravagantly and never wear. He had as many pairs of shoes as a leading lady, and gloves enough to start a store, and yet he was frugal in most things, not stingy, but habitually in New England. His food was of the plainest, his tastes simple, his pleasures inexpensive ones. On his wife or little Betty, on tools or equipment for the farms, on photographs for his bulletins, he spent money like water, had, in fact, to be watched and restrained. He was a queer admixture of a little, old-fashioned, careful Massachusetts bachelor, a gnome, a genius, a prankish boy, a spendthrift, and a temperamental artist. More exactly, he had in him a little of all the most lovable and attractive and desirable traits of humankind. He was an epitome of the best of the race, plus a modicum of something careless observers thought conceit. It was not egotistic complacence. It was a boundless pride in the work. As the man who was doing that work, Luther Burbank thought considerably of Luther Burbank. As Luther Burbank, citizen, husband, friend, he did not rate Luther Burbank above any other law-abiding and peace-loving gentleman. Sometimes he was a little chagrined at the antics of the latter individual. Apparently, from his earlier years, he was filled with amazement and delight at the achievements and triumphs of the former. When I had finished the first writing referred to on a previous page, and had read for Mr. Burbank's editing the last installment, I made a hasty farewell, because he was very tired and very much embarrassed by other cares and troubles. Mrs. Burbank says that the big chief, sitting in his glass-enclosed study on the south side of the rambling house where he lived, rose quickly, went to a window, and watched me down the path. Then he turned quickly, impulsively. "Betty, call him back, will you?" he cried. Mrs. Burbank, knowing that the work was, for the time being, done, hesitated. "What's wrong, Big Chief?" she inquired. "Do you really want him back?" He shook his head slowly, sighed. "Let it go," he said. "No, it's all right. Only he looks sort of lonesome." We laid Luther Burbank to rest under a cedar in the yard of the old homestead in which he lived for 40 years, and on the grounds of which he did most of his revolutionary and incalculably valuable work for his fellow man. He used to go there often, where the drooping limbs of the great tree swept down to touch the earth, and to form about the stalwart, friendly trunk of little quiet house of coolness and the sweet balsam of the needles. Sitting or lying on the ground or playing there with Betty Jane, he would be utterly relaxed and at peace. He loved that cedar and its shaded canopy of branches. That is why he was laid there for his long rest. There was nothing funeral or conventional about the feeling with which he was placed there, blanketed with flowers. All the grief felt was free of bitterness. All the tenderness was swept of vain regret. It was and is as though he were at peace, simply sleeping there. So near still, so dear still, so real still. Only now and again, in the twilight that used to be his time for intimate talks and for some reading aloud, or when his lack and loss are brought abruptly to the mind, or when there is proposed some outing that would have found him eager and restive, first to be off. Only now and again, in moments when it seems that the big chief ought to be found laughing and unexpected in a door, or stretching out under his own homely old rug on the battered sofa in his favorite room, or sitting relaxed, his sensitive fingers playing with Betty Jane's black hair, or fondling Nita, the dog, those who knew him best and loved him most dearly find the tears springing, and with throats a little dry, they look at one another as though they might well want to say, "Call him back. He seems sort of lonesome."